Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to bring you guys my end of July reading wrap up. I have 19 books to talk about in this video. I read a total of 40 books in July. So what's really exciting is that quite a few of these books are volumes of manga or comics, but I also have quite a few romance books in here as well. I'm definitely getting into my manga, comics, graphic novel phase right now, and I am just loving that vibe. I totally have a new appreciation for manga and comics and things like that. By the way, if you're looking for recommendations for those kinds of books, don't really come to me because I'm just now starting to get into those genres, but I would highly recommend checking out Ashley from Bookish Realm and Shay from Shay Geeks Out. They are the two booktubers that I've been getting the most recommendations from recently, so highly recommend them. I will link them down in the description below. So let's go ahead and jump into the 19 books that I read in the last half of July. First up, we have volumes 1 and 2 of Fence. This is by C.S. Passat and a couple of other artists. You might recognize that author's name. She's famous for writing the Captive Prince series. I've never read that series, but I know quite a few people know of those books. And so this is a comic series. There are 4 volumes out so far. The 5th volume is set to come out actually in just about a week or two, which is really exciting. But this centers around 2 pretty major characters. One of them is Nicholas and the other is Seiji. And so this is all about basically a fencing team at this private boarding school. Nicholas and Seiji are both starting there as freshmen, but Seiji is like a world champion fencer. Like, he will no doubt be an Olympian, and Nicholas is definitely an underdog and up-and-comer. He apparently has a lot of like technical flaws that need to be worked out, and so these first 2 volumes have been essentially focusing on the fencing team tryouts at this boarding school, because apparently fencing teams only have like 3 people on them, which is absolutely insane to me. You would think that there would be at least a few more people on a fencing team, but yeah, there's only 3 spots to fight for. And so yeah, this series, y'all, is so addictive and so good. I gave both volumes 5 stars. The art is really well done. This is surprisingly funny. There's also like inklings of romances going on, and there's this great rivalry between Seiji and Nicholas. They're also roommates at the boarding school, and yeah, like I just can't stop reading this series, and I want to binge volumes 3, 4, and 5, but at the same time I know I'm gonna have to wait a really long time for volume 6 to come out. So I'm kind of stopping myself. I'm trying to like pace myself through this series, but it's amazing. I'm also finding the fencing aspect to be really interesting. I didn't expect to be so invested in the story because I don't know anything about fencing. I'm not a huge sports person, but this story just like sucks you right in, and you're immediately invested and you're rooting for certain people, and it's, yeah, I can't recommend this highly enough. It's absolutely fantastic. Next up, we have Fine Print Volume 1. I can't pronounce this author's name, so I'm not even gonna try to. I believe the author is Croatian, and they also wrote the Sunstone series of comics. I believe there's several volumes of that out at the moment, but there's only 1 volume of this series out. So it's kind of hard for me to summarize this series, so I'm literally looking at the Goodreads synopsis. It says, when it comes to Lauren Thomas, the queen of bad decisions, the answer is always the worst possible choice. She finds herself in a rare opportunity to have her broken heart patched up by the highest rated god of desire. The problem is it's a contested title, because basically 2 gods or demons show up, and so they're kind of fighting over her, but that's kind of a small part of this plot. There's a lot of other things going on. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think the artwork is beautiful and stunning. This is also an erotic comic series, so definitely know that things get kind of graphic. My issue with this is that I feel like the author was trying to introduce too many plots and too many plot points, and so it felt like it was just a little all over the place for me. I would have liked for there to have been more focus on like one central plot or something. I also felt like some of the characters were drawn in a way that they looked a little too similar to each other. Like there's two pretty major characters in particular that I thought they were the same person, just in like different timelines or something. So yeah, this wasn't like perfect by any means, but I'll definitely read the second volume when it comes out. Who knows when that will be, because I think this volume has been out for a while. But overall, I did enjoy it and I would recommend it. Next up, we have The Way of the House Husband. This is volumes 1 through 3 that I read in July. Oh my god, you guys. So this is a manga series. It has been adapted into an anime series on Netflix. There is one season out at the moment, so if you want to check that out, I would recommend the anime series. I've been having a fun time watching that as well as reading the manga volumes. So the premise is that we have Tatsu, who was known as the Immortal Dragon. He was a Yakuza boss. He left that life behind to marry Miku and become a house husband. And so what ensues is just this crazy, ridiculous, over-the-top comedy. It's a slice of life series where we see Tatsu in all of these different situations as a house husband. And I think the humor comes from just how seriously he takes his role as a house husband. And he's also just like a very endearing character. You can't help but love him and Miku together. They're really cute, but this definitely is not a romance series. I do want to point that out now. I can't say I'm not just a little disappointed that we don't see like even just a little something of their romance. Like the most you'll get is them hanging out together and like they're cute together and everything, but like you don't even see them kiss or anything. Like, so don't expect any romance. Also don't expect any real plot or character development. This is literally, like I said, slice of life. So you're just seeing Tatsu and Miku and these other side characters in all of these just ridiculous and over-the-top situations, and it's just a really fun time. I would also recommend this if you're in kind of a reading slump and you want something really quick and easy to read, because usually it takes me about like an hour, maybe a little over an hour to read a volume of manga. Whereas with this manga, it takes me about 30 minutes to just blow through an entire volume, and I'm having a fun time. I'm laughing my way through this. I don't think the humor is for everybody, but I would highly recommend checking it out for yourself because I really, really enjoy it. Volume 3 for me has been my favorite volume so far. I have read up to volume 4 at this point, but volume 3 was like an absolute banger. Like I was laughing the entire time. Next up we have Can't Escape Love by Alyssa Cole. This is technically a novella in her Reluctant Royal series, though I have never read any of the other books in the series. You definitely don't need to. But this centers around Regina and Gustav, and basically Gustav used to run like a Twitch stream where he would put puzzles together and like talk his way through putting those puzzles together, and Regina randomly came across his stream and became just kind of obsessed with his voice, and his voice was like the only way for her to fall asleep. Like she has pretty severe insomnia. She runs her own like pop culture website, I would say. It's called Geeks with Glasses, I believe. And so then Gustav like took his whole like streaming site down, and took all of his past videos down. And so she has no content to listen to be able to go to sleep. So she emails him to ask if he would be willing to make some recordings. She would pay him. And instead he wants to talk to her on the phone, like, you know, live in person as opposed to just making recordings. And so things go on from there. This is a super sweet and adorable romance. I give it 4 stars. I thought it was a really good time, and I liked that it was a novella length. I feel like that was the perfect length for their story. So yeah, definitely recommend this one. I was excited about this one because Brie from In Love and Words adores this novella, and I totally understand why. Next up, we have the 3 books that I read for a reading vlog that I did, where I read 3 of McKay's absolute favorite romance books ever. So I will link that vlog up in the cards above for sure. So I read Medicine Man by Saffron A. Kent. I'm just going to briefly talk about these 3 books because I discussed them quite in depth in that vlog. I think I gave this like 2.5, 3 stars, something like that. This was just a miss for me, which is unfortunate because I read a book by this author before and absolutely loved that book. But yeah, they can't all be winners, but this one is about an 18-year-old who is at like a psychiatric rehab facility, and then Simon, who is a doctor at that facility. By the way, these are all taboo romances that I was reading for this vlog, and their romance just did not work for me. I really didn't like Simon the hero. The next book that I read for this, however, was a total win for me, and that is Always Been You by QB Tyler. So this one is taboo because it's about adopted siblings. So we have Gabrielle and we have James. There's a bit of an age gap between the two of them as well. Basically, when James was like 12, their family adopted Gabrielle when she was about 2 years old. So they've grown up together, and over the years they've both fallen in love with each other. And so towards the beginning of this book, they finally confess their feelings. This book, you guys, is hot, and it's just very intense. Like, you feel the love between these two people. This is one of those romances where I truly feel like the couple are soulmates. James can get it any day of the week. He is like one of the hottest heroes ever, and I love how possessive he is and how devoted he is to Gabrielle. This was just a total home run for me. And then the last book I read for that vlog was Sweet Dandelion by Makalia Smeltzer. This is another age gap taboo situation. We have Danny, or Dandelion, who's 18. She, at the very beginning of the book, we see that she has been through a very traumatic school shooting, and her mother actually died in that shooting. Now she's in a new town at a new high school, and we have Lachlan, the hero, who is her guidance counselor. And so every day they spend about 50 minutes together, and he gives her therapy, essentially. I really enjoyed this one. I think I gave it like 4.5 stars. It was very close to 5 stars, but I felt like the last 20% or so kind of dragged, and I don't think that it needed to be quite as long as it was. This is like over 600 pages, but still a really wonderful book overall, and I would definitely recommend it. Next up, we have Below Zero by Ali Hazelwood. This is the last of her STEMinist novellas that she's been coming out with. So this one's about Hannah and Ian. They both work for NASA, and it's called Below Zero because it's set pretty much like around the North Pole, I think. Like a very cold, desolate place. She's there for a research project. And so this is told through a series of like flashbacks and present day. All three of the novellas were written in that same way. Something I've realized about Ali Hazelwood is that she loves the miscommunication / misunderstanding trope. And that's just like not my favorite thing. But overall, I did enjoy this. I gave it 4 stars. I gave all 3 of these novellas 4 stars. Nothing that blew me away. I really liked The Love Hypothesis, but these novellas were just fun to listen to while I was doing other things, you know, multitasking. But they're nothing that I would say is like required reading for a romance reader. You know, they weren't all that special. Next up, oh my God. You guys, I am so excited to talk about this manga series. This is Sweat and Soap by Kintetsu Yamada. So I read volumes 1 and 2 of this series. This came highly recommended by both Ashley and Shay. Once again, I have their channels already linked in the description. This has kind of a weird premise, not gonna lie. We have our main characters, Asako and Kotaro. They both work for this soap company. Kotaro works on like the creative side of things. He actually comes up with scents. He has a very strong sense of smell. And then we have Asako, who works in the finance department, and she has an issue where she sweats a lot, and so she's very self-conscious about the way that she smells. She was made fun of it as a kid, so of course she's gonna still be self-conscious about it. But Kotaro is just absolutely obsessed with the way that she smells, and she kind of inspires him to come up with different scents for the soap company. Yes, this is a weird premise, I will give you that. However, this is one of the sweetest and tender and healthy relationships that I've ever read about. Oh my God, like if you are a romance reader, this is required reading. Like you absolutely need to check out this series. I love the art style as well. There's some really great comedic moments. I love both of these main characters with my whole heart. I wish they were real people that I could be friends with. Like they are just everything. And yes, like I said, the premise is kind of odd, but by the second volume, that's not really a huge part of their relationship anymore. Like, yes, that's what initially attracted Kotaro to Asako, but like I said, by the second volume, they have so many more things to love about each other. And I'm not gonna lie, there's moments in this that made me like tear up and cry because that's how sweet their romance is. So I can't recommend this highly enough. I'm planning on reading volume 3 in the next couple of days. This is like my top manga recommendation at the moment. So freaking good. So next up, I read volumes 1 and 2 of Night of the Ice. So this centers around Kokoro and Chitose. And Kokoro is a pretty famous figure skater, but basically he can't land his quad jumps unless Chitose recites this spell from this anime series that they both watched as kids. It's basically Sailor Moon, and I'm obsessed. So she holds up the pen. You know how Sailor Moon has like this little pen that helps her transform, and so she holds it up, she recites the spell, and he has the confidence to land his quad jumps essentially. And so this is basically a childhood friends to lovers romance series, though in these first 2 volumes we've seen basically no romance between the two of them. There's definitely a lot of other things going on besides the relationship between these two, which honestly is like a little annoying. There's a couple side characters that I'm like, can you just go? Like his manager slash agent or whoever she is, like she's low-key annoying when I can tell she's supposed to be funny, but she's really not. So I will continue on with this series, but I really hope that future volumes will focus more on at least the friendship between Chitose and Kokoro, because right now, like I said, they don't have a lot of page time alone together. A lot of the time there's other characters on page with them. So I need to see more development of their romance or friendship or whatever the case may be. So next up we have Orange volume 1. I didn't read like the collected volume because that's like 3 volumes in one. I literally read the first volume of this manga series, and I was turned on to this one just because literally every manga recommendation video that I've ever watched on YouTube mentions this manga, and it does have a really interesting concept going on. We have Naho, our main character. Basically, she gets a letter from herself from 10 years in the future. And so in this letter, it's detailing things that future her regrets that past her can correct, basically. And then our other pretty major character is Kakeru, who when she's 16, he's a brand new student at their school. And so her friend group befriends him and things go on from there. I liked this. I didn't love it. I ended up giving it like 3.5 stars. On reflection, I think it's more of a 3-star read. The characters were likable. I liked the concept, but I found myself getting bored at times. So I don't really feel inclined to continue on with this series. You know, it is definitely a very YA series, and that's not a problem for me. I love YA. I still very much enjoy YA, but this just wasn't interesting enough to hook me to want to read volume 2. Next up we have Bound by Temptation by Cora Riley. This is book 4 in her Born in Blood Mafia Chronicles series. You guys probably know at this point, I'm trying to work my way through this series so that I can eventually get to the Kimura Chronicles series, which is a spinoff. But this one is about Romero and Liliana. Romero is Aria's bodyguard. So Aria is Liliana's older sister. And Liliana has loved Romero for years, like her whole childhood, since Romero has been in their lives. And so the bulk of the story happens when she's now 18. I believe he's not too much older than her, probably less than 10 years older than her. But this ends up being a forbidden romance because Romero is just a common soldier in the mafia, whereas Liliana is the daughter of, I believe, the consigliere of the Chicago outfit, and so her father would want her to marry someone of higher standing, and so that's basically what's getting in the way of them being together. I really liked this one. I do think it's my least favorite of the series so far. Yeah, I just enjoyed the first 3 books more than this one, but it was still solid. I still gave it 4 stars. Next up we have Akamath by Sarah J. Maas. This was my reread for SJM Along, which is a Sarah J. Maas themed read along that was organized by Jen from the Book Refuge. And so yeah, this past month, we read Akamath, and there is like a 3-hour live show where we discussed everything going on in this book. So I'll also have that link down in the description below. I had a really fun time being a part of that live show. It was so cool being with these characters again, rereading Feyre and Rhysand's romance. It's just so crazy to me how different ACOTAR and Akamath is in quality in general. And I learned that apparently Sarah wrote ACOTAR before Heir of Fire. So she was definitely still kind of coming into her own with her writing style and her craft. Whereas this book, she was writing around the time of Queen of Shadows. So there's a huge difference in quality. So I have one last book to talk about. This is Takani and Hana, Volume 1. So this one's a weird premise as well. Mangas, I feel like, tend to have somewhat of an unusual premise. But this one starts out as kind of an arranged marriage situation between Takani and Hana. There's a 10-year age gap between the two of them. Takani is 26, Hana is 16. Obviously that's not cool, and this is addressed throughout the volume, but basically Hana takes the place of her older sister to go to an arranged marriage meeting with Takani and his grandfather. His grandfather set all of this up. So basically Takani figures out right away that she is not her older sister. And so what ensues is this kind of odd friendship between the two of them. And I really enjoyed this volume because I love how these two main characters get under each other's skin, and I'm really enjoying this weird friendship between the two of them. There's nothing romantic going on. This is like an 18-volume series, so I'm sure the romance is gonna take some time to develop, and I'm sure they'll wait until Hana is a bit older for that to kick in. I don't know, the dynamic between the two of them is really working for me. Like I said, the age gap is addressed quite a bit. Hana definitely does not see herself in a romantic way with Takani, and vice versa. There's actually a really funny part of this manga where she envisions herself as being married to Takani and how awful that would be. I adore the art style of this. It was so freaking funny. The way that the author drew different emotions on their faces and just like used kind of different styles of art in a way to make things funnier, it was just amazing in my opinion. I think I gave this volume like 4.5 stars. Like, I could definitely see this becoming a new favorite manga series for me. That is it for all of the books that I read in the second half of July. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to discuss any of the books that I brought up in this video, or if you want to give me recommendations, especially for manga or graphic novels or comics. As you can tell, I'm becoming quite obsessed with those genres. So yes, if you have recommendations, please let me know. And with all of that being said, I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe. And I thank you so much in advance if you do. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!